All right, we have somebody here from Halifax. Awesome, welcome. If you're just joining us, go ahead and put your name and your location into the chat. We have somebody here from Colorado. Welcome. Western New York. Oh, Seneca, Illinois. Jason, I know where that is. That's close to me. California, another California, Washington, D.C. Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in just a minute. If you're just joining us, please go ahead and put your name and your location into the chat. We have people here from Maryland and Mississippi and from Pennsylvania. Welcome, everybody. And Dallas, Texas. All right, born and raised in Wisconsin, your neighbor. Hi. Yeah, and you're from Pennsylvania. That's great. Just a minute or two more and we'll go ahead and get started. Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Lots of people from Pennsylvania here today. Welcome. All right, so today we're going to continue on with our webinar series, Staying Strong and Positive for Ourselves and Our Children. I see somebody here from Washington, D.C., a couple people here from D.C. Welcome. Jaira, you can go ahead and forward. Today, we're going to talk about person-first language and reducing stigma. And this is part of our week-long series on human-centered child welfare. Oh, another person here from DC, welcome. Again, I'm Robyn Harvey. I serve as the National Training Director for Be Strong Families. Hey, Bridget from Joliet. Joliet's just down the street from me too, welcome. All right, go ahead and forward, Jaira. There's several ways to engage with us on this webinar today. So I'm just going to go through a few of them. If you aren't talking, please put yourself on mute. If you are ready to comment, you can raise your hand and then we'll unmute you. And then you'll need to unmute yourself so we can hear you. Those buttons are on the bottom on your toolbar. Please be patient with us. Oftentimes there's lots of people trying to get their voice heard and we will get to as many people as possible. One of the main ways to get your voice into the room today will be using the chat. Don't forget to use the down caret to choose everyone. Otherwise, the only person that can see your chat is me. And I will get to as many of the comments in the chat as possible. All right, you can go ahead and forward. Everything Be Strong Families does, from trainings to cafes to workshops, we use agreements for. So today we're going to speak from our own experience. We're all going to commit to using I statements. We're going to use the golden rule, and we're going to treat people like we want to be treated. We're going to bring our full presence, no multitasking. This is a half an hour of just you time where you get to settle in and listen and pick up some new skills and offer your skills to the rest of us. And then if you need a minute, take a minute. We don't take an official break during this half an hour, but if you have needs or your family has needs that need to be tended to, please go ahead. As you can see, people are already typing I agree into the chat. If you agree with these agreements, please go ahead and write I agree or agree. Let's just make sure that everybody knows that this is a safe place to share today. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to give about 30 seconds more to Jaira to let them do that. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Go ahead and you can forward. So the topic today is person-first language. Can anybody type into the chat or raise your hand and tell me what your version of person-first language is? What is it? I'm going to give you a second to type. Has anybody heard of the concept of person-first language? Language spoken at home. Okay, Tarcisio, it could be spoken at home. Thank you. And great to see you. Anybody else? All right, so allowing the other person to speak in their own voice and finish, that could be part of it as well, Adrian. Thanks for commenting and great to see you too. Your native language? Well, I'm hoping that after today is going to be part of your native language. Thank you. And I believe it has to do with disabilities. All right, so now we're getting a little bit closer. Go ahead, Jahira, and click again. Focusing on the positive of a person, not the negative. Thank you. Thinking of a person rather than the task when having a conversation. Good. I have a daughter with a developmental delay, not a developmentally delayed daughter. Michelle, thank you. So person first language is really about putting the people first. It's about not labeling or judging. Yes, yes, that's right, Adrian. No labeling or judgment. So when we're talking about people, the people come first, and then whatever we need to clarify comes second. So when we're talking about, all right, no stigmas. Good. Lori, would you mind raising your hand so we can hear your voice? I'd like to hear a little bit more about that statement, no stigmas. Angela Grammer. Yes. All right. So why is it important to put the person before their disability, before their challenges, or before their behavior? What's the importance of this? Lori already kind of answered it partly, no stigmas. But let's unpack that. What does that mean? If we're destigmatizing people or challenges or disabilities or issues or behaviors, what does that exactly mean? And can somebody think of examples of this? This removes limitations you're placing on their cognitive or functional ability. Great, that is part of it. Thank you. What else?
Stigma.
Because they are a person first and their disability is just part of who they are. That's correct. And how does that help reduce stigma, reduce labeling? Focus on the person, not his or her disability. Yes, absolutely. And like expanding out from just the realm of disability, what other areas could we see this in? And why is it important for us to focus on all areas, not just people with disabilities? Are there any other factions of society that this could fit?
So Robyn?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a sister-in-law who learned sign language late in her life. And think about this, her coming when she was like a teenager and not even knowing sign language in her own language, Espanol, and learning sign language here. So before that, for what I know, my wife and her family will communicate in any way they could. It wasn't something like established, sign language per se. So at that point, through 15 years, she communicated whatever way she could in that sense. And I guess that's a perfect example, the person first, and not the way it should be, the way it is, the way society established it. And it's not like you don't know sign language or you don't know this. It's whatever way you can communicate. I guess someone wrote that, based on their ability, just communicating. That's I can think of as an example.
Thank you, Tarcisio. So Adrian offers, we see this a lot with women/men's abilities. Joseph offered race, sexuality, religion. That's examples of it. So I'd like to get into some of the linguistic examples though, not just categories. So let's put in the chat some examples of non-person or non-person first language, and then followed by the example of person first language. So let me see, there's some more messages here. Let me read them for you guys. Yes, we also see this with gender. Thank you. And it causes us to prejudge. Yes. Social and economical background in different cultures. Yes. And stigma equals discrimination. Absolutely. teen mom, not a teenager who is a mom. Yes, that is a good example, Michelle. So a teen mom has a stigma to it. But removing that teen from the beginning is a much better way to speak about people. A teenager who is a mom. It sounds kinder, gentler. It's open. It makes us want to draw closer to people instead of saying you're not one of us because you are a teen mom. Ageism works at all ages. Adrian, you want to type some more about that? Can I get a couple more examples? So we got one about teen moms or a teenager who is a mom. Tarcisio gave one about someone who may be deaf. So my deaf sister-in-law instead of my sister-in-law who is deaf. All right, do you see how that flipping of it makes the statement different? All right, go ahead, Jahira, and go to the next slide. Oh, there we go. How does using person first language remove the limit of labels? Oh, Missy, that is great. And I'm from Illinois, and this happened a bit ago. So foster youth versus youth in foster care. And Illinois went even further to encourage people to say youth in care and took the label foster out completely. Adrian says job description, 1 to 2 years out of college versus perfect for someone who's entering or re-entering the job force. Good, thank you. So how does using the person first language remove the limits? She's a single mom instead of a mom. She's a single mom and a mom who is parenting with a team. Thank you, Michelle. Opportunity youth rather than at-risk youth. Good. A couple more people with some examples. People brought up sexual orientation and race and religion. A paternal parent raising children. Great. A couple more. Anything to do with religion or sexual orientation or socioeconomic status, or even people that are involved in the child welfare arena. So we call people who are child welfare involved birth parents. Well, birth parents are anybody who birthed a child, correct? But birth parents has a really negative stigma on it. So what's something that we could say that's not birth parents? How would we turn that one around? I kind of said it in the introduction. A parent who's got child welfare involvement, or a parent who's involved with the child welfare system. Labeling a birth parent is a stigma. All right, Adrian, can you talk a little bit about yours? A spiritual person instead of a Catholic, Baptist, or Buddhist? So Tarcisio, I would encourage you to say a person who practices the Catholic faith, a person who practices the Baptist faith, person who practices the Buddhist faith. We have to put the label behind the person. In person first language, we're putting people first. That if we just said, you know, he is Tarcisio. He is Tarcisio and he practices Catholicism. Relative care. Yes, non-traditional care. Or yes, great. Or children being raised by their grandparents, or children being raised by their aunt or uncle. Okay, Asperger's is no longer used. It's considered a rude and degrading term. Use autistic instead. All right, Adrian, I'm going to challenge you to take that a step further though. So a person who has autism, instead of saying that person is autistic, do you see the difference in the tone of the language when we put the people before either their diagnoses or their situation or their challenge or their religion or anything like that? It's really human-centered means that we're focusing on the person. And when we focus on people, we focus on their holistic nature, not just one aspect of them. When we do not use person first language, we are pigeonholing them into what we put before their name. Yes, having autism. Great. I learned all of this in the last couple of years, and I've been working with Net and Greater Tilton, which are two of our fabulous partners, on the Recovering Together Cafe training. And we have developed together, all three of us, a deck of cards that are for parent cafes for people who are dealing with addiction and those people who love them. So this is Recovering Together. And this is very big in the community that deals with recovery and addiction. And our Recovering Together training has a whole section on reducing stigma, not using labels, and using person first language. If you have a program that is involved in the recovery community, this might be something you want to check out. We offer this as a Cafe Training Institute, which means that you can bring us to you, or we offer it as a team training and you send 4 to 6 people. So those are ways that we have infused this person first language into our curriculum. Families who are newcomers, instead of immigrant, migrant, refugee family, thank you. I can see this being really helpful with diagnosis of immune disorders as well. People feel like guinea pigs. That's true, right? All right, so how does using this person first language remove the limits that labels put on us? Anybody? It helps us to see them fully. The individual comes first. Yes, Adrian. So when you're being introduced to somebody, you're not autistic Robyn, or here's my sister, the drug addict, or this is, Rob, who is a birth parent. Those are reducing, and we want to expand the people. We want to look at them and inspire them to not live up to that label, especially when it comes to child welfare families. It allows everybody to be seen and treated as equal. Thank you, Joseph. They are a person first, and then they have this various aspects of themselves. Very true, Renee. Thank you. All right, Jahira, you can go to the next slide. And you can click it. All right, so person first language is widely thought of as being important to use in order to maintain an environment of dignity, respect, and hope. Jason offers, it focuses on a person as an individual rather than attaching labels that reinforces stereotypes. Yes, yes. And in our programs, when we're dealing with human beings, we want them to be always treated with dignity and respect. And we want to inspire hope that they're more than just whatever that label is. And that, because we know that label often does reinforce those stereotypes, those negative stereotypes. Okay, click again, Jahira. How does person first language reduce stereotypes and stigma? Anybody? How does it reduce stereotypes? It really goes against the grain of putting people into boxes, and that causes us versus them mentality. It reinforces the fact that we're all in this together as people. It focuses on the positive of the person, then against the label. Sure. And just because the person has that label doesn't always necessarily mean that it's negative. There's plenty of good labels too, but we always want to put the person first, regardless if it's negative or positive. Anybody else want to answer? How does person first language reduce stereotypes and stigma? And what? Oh, go ahead.
This is Michelle. I was gonna say, because when you put the label first, our mind is already racing to figure out how to pigeonhole a person. Like if I say that a person has a disability, I'm already putting you at a disadvantage. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to do this for you, I'm gonna have to do that, or this person won't be able to do this, as opposed to allowing a person to be who they truly are and showing you where they need the support at, as opposed to me assuming where you need the support.
Thank you, Michelle. And I think that you really unearthed something that's really important, is when we are labeling people and not using person first language, we may be perpetuating implicit biases that people aren't saying explicitly, but have internally. So when we introduce people as Robyn is autistic, right then somebody's brain may go to less than, and they may not give that person a fair shot. Everyone has implicit biases. Yes, Adrian, that's true. And thank you, Michelle, for speaking up. And then Shirley, I wanted to give you a chance to speak too. If you could unmute yourself and raise your hand so Jahira can unmute you. A person's condition or situation doesn't define them. Can you say more about that, Shirley?
Hello, yes. Okay, hi.
Hi.
I think that when a person has a condition or or in a situation, like a condition maybe where they're disabled and it's visual, perhaps, and it looks different to some people, I think they may get a lot of stereotype, like they can't do certain things. Or by the situation, I mean, somebody may be going through a problem because of any reason. Nobody knows, like if they have an addiction, perhaps. That I think that opens up the door for them being stereotyped, or being able to be stereotyped by people. But what I meant by our condition or our situations don't define us, because we're who we are. First, we're our name, and we're a person first, with the ability to always strive to do better, which is what I think. I know I want to do better, and I would think that most people would want. So that's what I meant by that. It doesn't define us.
Thank you so much, Shirley, for adding your voice. Adrian offered everyone has implicit biases. Implicit biases are not just based upon visual social cues. It can be directed by others. Adrian, do you want to say a little bit more about that? Go ahead, Jahira, and unmute Adrian. Adrian, are you unmuted? Jahira? Let me see if I can unmute you. Yeah, you're unmuted, Adrian. Unmute yourself. All right, we'll work on getting Adrian. And does anybody else want to chime in? How does person first language reduce stereotypes? All right, so let's spend, she has an old, oh, okay. You can't be I'm not sure why you can't be unmuted today. Adrian, thanks for typing it. I appreciate it. Okay, so I want to spend the last few minutes just putting in some practice. There's 36 people on here today, and I'd like to hear one chat from everybody trying on person first language. All right, so we can do this about ourselves. All right, so I'll type mine in here and show you what I want you to do. Okay, so my examples, I'm a woman who's diabetes. I am not a diabetic. I have diabetes. Adrian says sometimes when I'm in a group and a person of color speaks, if a white person speaks afterwards, then the person of color is silenced. It is a problem. Yes, thank you. That's a very subtle way, and that's a very nuanced way to look at it. Thank you very much. Can I get a few more people, or everybody, if you could, to put a person first statement? It could be about you, it could be about somebody you love, it could be about a made up person. That's cool too. So we had a couple other examples. I'm a single woman with 3 daughters. Thank you, Jessica. That's a nice, easy one. Yes. I'm a white woman with anxiety. Thank you. We need to put the clarifiers behind the people. I'm a man who has anxiety. Thank you, Jason. And it's even okay not to even say have. You could be a man who struggles with anxiety. I'm a person who's Puerto Rican. Thank you, Christian. Good. Instead of calling you a Puerto Rican, he is a Puerto Rican. They are Puerto Rican. Very good. I'm a person who's Puerto Rican. I'm a person who's Jewish. Thank you, Adrian. I'm a person who looks white. Good. So you're getting it. It's the people that have to be first. First, Joseph, I'm a student that plays sports. Awesome. So instead of calling Joseph a jock, we're describing the activity. Good. 1 or 2 more. I'm a man who was born in Mexico. Thank you, Tarcisio. You got it. I am a person that has an accent. Thanks, Gretchen, and hello. Thanks for adding your voice. Great. All right. So, there's a few more here. I am a person who does accounting. Good. So you see that it works with both positive and negative. Accounting isn't a negative thing. Accounting is a positive thing. But if we get in the habit of highlighting their personhood first, that in itself shows dignity and respect, because we're focusing on them and not the strength, the challenge, or the problem. Awesome. Okay, Jahira, go ahead and fast forward. Renee offered, I am a woman who struggles with anxiety and depression. Thank you, Renee. And Betty, I'm a person, whoops, we got the poll popping up. Okay, I am a person who is a young educator. Thank you. And Shirley, I'm a woman who loves to learn. Wonderful. So we're getting it. Person, and then the strength, the problem, the challenge, the diagnoses. We are not those things. Awesome. So the rest of the week is going to be focusing on human-centered child welfare, how to keep people at the center of everything we are doing for them, and really switching that doing for them to doing with them, to helping the people we're serving find their own agency and find their own motivation and internal drive. So tomorrow you're going to get me again, and we're going to be talking about the training that we do that's called Recognizing and Responding to Family Stress. Super exciting. Wednesday is Maintaining Family Connectedness. And we do have a trainer swap there. I believe it might be Mr. Tarcisio Ornelius Gomez. And then on Thursday, you're going to get Karine Nunnally with Communicating with Families. Awesome presenter, fun. And then the last day, we're going to talk about human-centered child welfare. And we're going to do that through a taste of a More Perfect Union Parent Cafe. If you don't know what a More Perfect Union Parent Cafe is, it's our cafe where we use the cards that talk about the intersection between parenting and social justice. We talk about racism and bullying and, really just bias. All the questions are focused on that intersection. It's going to be an exciting time. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it. Once you guys have filled out your polls, you can push close. We have a class coming up called Parent Engagement Through the Lens of Equity. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. That's coming up on Wednesday, September 15th. And if you'd like to register, there's a QR code there. and you can use your cell phone to capture that. If you don't know how to use the QR code, or you just are on your cell phone, you can also go to bestrongfamilies.com and you can push the events, and you'll see all of our registration-based trainings there for you. So thanks, everybody. So nice to see you all, and see you tomorrow.